I'm Rowena Nash, and I was born August the 16th, 1941 in Putnam County.
Mrs. Rowena Nash was the second of 3 children and the only daughter born to Luther and Ruby Massa of Boiling Springs. No stranger to agriculture and farm life, Rowena was born and raised on her family's farm where they raised cattle, tobacco, and corn.
You know, I know my dad, whatever he did, he was in bad health all of his life, but anything he did well. We grew tobacco, and he made sure we didn't lose any of the leaves on the bottom because he said they were the best. So my brother and I, we would have to get those off of a morning before we went to school.
Rowena attended a 2-room school in Boiling Springs for elementary and middle school before going to Central High School in Cookeville, where she would graduate in 1960. And it was during those high school years where she would meet and fall in love with Mr. Albert Bill Nash.
My grandpa Putnam, on my mom's side, had a store, and we happened to be there, and he just asked me to go to a movie, I think it was, and stuff. And that's how it all started, so.
Rowena and Bill married in October of 1960. They had 3 children they raised on the farm, and today are proud to have 6 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren. During their first decade of marriage, the Nashes were raising cattle, tobacco, and feeder pigs, and in 1970, they established their own Grade A dairy.
It was a big undertaking, you know, because there's a lot of money involved. We went to Wisconsin to get the first heifers, and just an act of faith that we would make it, because we sure didn't have any of this given to us. We had to work for it. I'm thankful that my husband was a good manager, and my whole family worked. You know, it takes that to build a dairy farm when you start from scratch.
Well, the family unfortunately had to sell the dairy cows in 2021, but the Nash's 2 sons are continuing the farming legacy and raising beef cattle and row crops on the farm. For Rowena, along with the dairy farm and raising children, she also worked for 40 years with the University of Tennessee Extension Service in the Expanded Food and Nutrition Program. That's where she became involved in the Family and Community Education, or Home Demonstration Club, that she remains active in today. On top of it all, the Nashes have always made sure church was a priority, being active members of Nash Grove Missionary Baptist Church for the past 62 years.
We need to put God first, and family and everything else will fall into place. I really feel like that's the core of raising a family. We need to be in church.
Much like their church, both Rowena and Bill have been active members of the Putnam County Farm Bureau for decades, joining the organization for insurance needs at first, but then quickly getting more involved and serving the past 45 years on the county board.
Don't they say 2% feeds the rest of the world? So Farm Bureau is a communicator, an advocate, and an educator to the rest of the world. You know, they're our main spokesman to help with problems that we have. And as you know, it gets harder and harder to make a living farming. Without Farm Bureau, it would even be harder. So we really believe in Farm Bureau.
During those 45 years with Farm Bureau, Mrs. Rowena has served on the Women's Committee and has always made sure to be a part of the county's annual Farm Day, believing strongly in the power of sharing agriculture story to young people and those unfamiliar with farm life.
I think it's so important for people to know where their food and fiber comes from, and that way they will appreciate more of what they're eating, because you know, and where it comes from, and how hard it takes to grow it, and what sacrifices farmers have to give.
No doubt Mrs. Rowena Nash has shown exemplary service through her church, her community, and Farm Bureau. And because of this, her name now goes alongside her husband's as a recipient of Farm Bureau's highest honor, the Distinguished Service Award.
It was really a surprise, but I really do appreciate it. You know, it's an honor, because to be asked, you know, I never thought it would be me. So, but I love Farm Bureau, so, and I just really appreciate it. And I hope that other people will keep telling the story of what Farm Bureau is doing.
Ms. Rowena, it's a privilege to honor you with this award for all the years of dedication you've given to Farm Bureau and support of special programs like Ag in the Classroom. We just want to thank you for this.
Well, thank you. I would like to say thank you to the State Farm Bureau Board and also the district for choosing me for this great honor. It was indeed a surprise when Eddie Clark came one morning early and he was carrying a letter in his hand. And I thought, well, he's probably come to give the boys a letter about something about farming. And I was never so surprised when I found out that I had been selected as the distinguished leader for our Farm Bureau district. I never thought about that. But it has been a privilege to serve on our Putnam County Women's Committee we figured it out sometime over 45 years. Some things have stayed the same and some things are different. But one thing that we always do we meet the first Tuesday of the month, and we also never fail to give pledge allegiance to the American flag and have a devotional at each meeting to thank God that we live in America. That's still a lot to be thankful for. By being on the committee, the Women's Committee, it has helped me to educate, communicate to the non-farmers where their food really comes from. And our family, being full-time farmers, we know how important that is. And once again, I would like to say thank you so much for this great honor. And most of all, I'd like to say also that I thank my family for being here to support me. Thank you all and everyone.